Hi, I'm David King from The Collaborative. I'm here with Patrick Harris from Collective Effort, which is a multi-dimensional creative sort of agency, as well as soon to be a co-working space.
Mm-hmm.
You've been involved in Collective Effort for two years now?
Yep, just about 2 years.
And you're sort of at the epicenter of what seems to be like this creative renaissance that's going on, partly in downtown Albany, and obviously in Troy a lot too. But because how could it not be?
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about how Collective Effort came together.
Yeah. So, man, I guess I would start probably early 2014. I'll start with myself and how the things kind of happened. So I left RPI in 2011, 2012. That's for my super senior semester. And I just hit the streets. My dad always told me to start a business, and I was in Troy and trying to figure out what to do. And I had the experience of seeing Vic Christopher start and seeing the Flying Chicken begin, and a couple other cool things were happening. That was all right, this seems like a place I can start anything, do something, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of just got me on a journey of just trying stuff out, and I was freelancing a lot, just doing graphic design, print ads and stuff like that, and I kind of just fell into this crew of artists and creatives that were specifically in Troy. Nothing huge was happening at the time though, but it was just pockets of really cool people that were really good guitarists, and there was just small events happening, I guess. I started throwing house parties, dance parties after some major event would happen. Or I remember 51 3rd Street was the alternative scene venue, and I would just throw after parties at my little apartment. And I ended up meeting Dan Lyles, who was our VP of operations, just in the mix. He was also an RPI guy, but he was doing his graduate degree stuff after I graduated already. We just kind of met in the streets. And so I met him there, just in the mix of Troy. And I guess what also helped me start building a foundation for myself was meeting Jamel Mosley, who was in my same degree program at RPI. And someone just I was just tapping my networks and my friends and hey, I'm trying to figure a thing out. And everyone was just you should go hang out with Jamel. And at the time, Jamel was living with James Rock, I believe.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, they were living in South Troy. And so I just hit him up, and I met him maybe twice when we were in school. He was a senior when I was a freshman. And I just remember going over his house, and it was hey, can I just come watch you video edit and just talk about stuff? And so for 3 hours, it's just Jamel just editing at his computer, and I'm just over his shoulder. So yeah, that kind of started building the foundation of us building a relationship, a working relationship together. And then he ended up going into Albany Barn and sharing office space with Deshaun Moore. So Deshaun is our director of marketing. Jamel is our VP of marketing and sales. And there we'd gotten an opportunity to really just really lean on one another for all types of things. We started freelancing. We were all freelancing, but every time we got into a position where we found an opportunity to pull one another in on a project, it kind of just happened like that. And then at some point, one of our other friends, Ben Williams, he's on our team. He's a music and food person.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was yo, I have this great idea. Let's start this thing called Beats and Eats and just explore food and music in the capital region. Because all of our friends were either chefs or musicians. And so we just started filming for probably 8 months or so. Filmed about 6, maybe 9 folks in the area, and was just all right, what are you doing? What do you that kind of thing. We would take True to his favorite restaurants, that kind of thing,
cool.
Which we're sitting on, and we were thinking about actually putting out in a couple of months. But that was our first tester, right? And that was all right, this is what it's kind of to work as a team. Around that time, I was freelancing and working at nonprofits part time. It was Capital Roots now,
Mm-hmm.
but before they were Capital District Community Garden. So I was
Right.
there, and I was on the marketing team at the YMCA, and eventually I ended up getting a gig as a COO at a marketing company that was in Troy, and being there gave me like a really good top-down view of like how to run an organization, and particularly like leading into project management. And I guess like after I left there, it was just like a no-brainer at that point. And it was like around that same time, Berta Singleton and Jess Coles, they had just met on Instagram, and they were just like, "I like your energy," to one another. And then they just like, "Hey, let's start hanging out and working together." And Power Breakfast became a thing. And so around the time that like Power Breakfast was starting, which was like us and just like meeting up at Jess's house and posting stuff on Instagram, then Jess and Berta and Jamel kind of like took it and made it a thing, because I hate getting up at 6:30 in the morning, and to this day, and they curse me every week for it. But
yeah, I have a similar affliction and a 5-year-old.
Yeah, and a 5-year-old, right? But you could totally bring your 5-year-old, by the way.
I've heard that. I don't know. She takes up a lot of space.
I mean,
I'll tell you.
I've heard about children like that, and it seems like a pretty cool environment for a kid to act up in.
I'll do it then.
You should totally do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I guess like as they were starting that, we started, I was like, okay, that's really awesome, and we totally should be doing that. And I just left the marketing company, and so I was like, okay, Jamel, Deshaun, like, I know what to do now. Let's figure it out. And so, yeah, we just kind of decided to just like start. Like there was no like, this is what we're gonna be, like anything like that. Like it was no like huge vision in the beginning, because it was like two operating things that at the time didn't seem like they connected like really like at all yet. It was us doing marketing and media. We were like servicing marketing clients, and then like we had like this community thing, and through that, I guess, birthed this idea of collective effort, which we now call is a creative agency who focuses on building and bridging communities to increase engagement and collaboration, right? And what we've kind of figured out from Power Breakfast and from our marketing and media work is that they're like they're born together, right? It's like, being able to create community the way we have in Power Breakfast has directly led into how we do our marketing as like the marketing arm of collective effort, which is like using digital tools and things like that to like organize a community and have it basically run itself, right? It's like, things like, Facebook community groups, things like that have like opened up a new avenue for how people can engage with one another, and in a very real way, rather than like just like internet beefing, it's like, how can I actually support these people that think like I do, or not even think like I do, but just like care about the same kinds of things that I'm, caring about at the moment. And
I mean, we were talking a little bit before we started filming about the idea that there wasn't this sort of creative energy in the region for a while, or at least what there was, it felt to me was
it was like fractured,
and people complaining about what isn't, or there's not a coffee shop that cares about the kind of coffee it's putting out there, or there's not a and now I think we're seeing people taking the risk and starting those things.
Yeah.
Obviously, the gig economy plays into this, but I've seen people who connect with Power Breakfast and with you guys, and suddenly are doing, they're really doing it, whatever it is, from photographer to create, graphic designer, whatever it is, and it feels like there's a support system, and there's a way to find people who need this work done. That maybe it wasn't as prevalent or easy before.
That was like really what we've like started to figure out. Just like, as much as we wanted to like build our own capacity to be able to do like really cool things, whether it be individually or together, we also was just, we have like this responsibility, I guess, at least we feel like we do, to, as we build people around us, because that's what's literally helped us the entire time. Like, I don't know where I would be right now if it wasn't for the fact that I'd met Jamel Mosley or, Jess Coles and Berta Singleton and Alfonso Rodriguez and Dan Lyles. I have no idea, and Deshaun Moore, I have no idea where I would be right now. Like, seriously, between, being able to build with them and like having really great access to be able to create things, like I remember one of the first things that I did outside of just doing general marketing and media stuff. Like, I started doing this pop-up series called The Parlor People, and it was like birthed out of me just doing photography at the Tag House does the Troy Flea. right? And in the basement was this barbershop whiskey, it was like this like man cave is what they basically were calling it. And I was just, and like the people that were down there were like, all right, let's see if we can do this. And I was like, I'll organize it and then like do some marketing materials. And like I just made a pop-up that ran for like 4 months in a row. But if it wasn't for one, the fire and desire of the people that were creators here, and then two, just like someone like Vic Christopher was like, yeah, use my space for free. I think that being a part of the culture here of people just genuinely wanting to see people like grow and build together has made it much easier, I'll say, than if I was to try something like that in the city, or in LA, where a lot of my friends that left RPI and like the other places I've been at, like they're all there now, and they're just like either sold into like I'm just going to be an employee for some like huge corporation, or oh no, I think I'm gonna try a thing for myself, but like the barriers of access and entry to like pull something off are just like 3, 4, 5, 10 times, the level of difficulty that is here.
I mean, talking to Aaron Moore, one of the things that he's sort of repeated a number of times is that there was this sense, and there still isn't, in the area, of people saying, help us first, and that'll help you. But that's changed. I mean, or not. You're offering something different. I mean, you guys are willing to reach out and say, this is how you do it, and not necessarily making any, making any money directly from it, but you're empowering folks and giving them the advice they need. I mean, but tell me a little bit about how the evolution of collective effort. I mean, the co-working spaces coming together. What is this year, say 2020, going to be for you guys?
2020 is going to be huge. It's going to be our opportunity to test out a lot of the things that we're trying to create as like the foundation of our organization, right? So like a huge thing that we care about is how do you build a creative economy that is not built for tourism, but instead built for the creatives that actually live here and create the culture that people sell, right? Like that is like one of the hugest like things that we're working on, right? I think, I remember when Ace had the Lessons from Austin event, right? And it was at Troy Music Hall. And one of the big takeaways was like, outside of the, if you build like, these great institutions and yada, yada, that create space for artists and the creatives alike to like build culture, then like that's like the secret key. But in turn, what that end up doing in like places like Austin or places like Brooklyn is that the people that created that culture can no longer afford to live in any of these places, right? And so that was like the real takeaway, right?
Yeah.
It was like while you build and you pay, you find all these ways to give developers or whomever money to like create the space. No one can afford to live here after, it blows up because of the great work of the person that does not own that space, And so figuring out like a basis for that is what we've been working on. But
well, it's funny because, covering the state government and working for a place in Manhattan for a while, people in the city obviously have a different take on developers than they do here. And they're covered more rigorously and they're treated more arm's length because the experience of gentrification and folks being driven out and, no one can afford to live in the city, and that's why they're all moving up
so
here.
They're coming here, yeah.
But so I've always felt there was this disconnect here with people saying, well, the developer said it, so it has to be true.
Right.
And obviously we want development, we want these neighborhoods to come alive, but at the same time, there has been this missing piece of people saying, well, wait a second, what does it mean for us and what does it mean for the neighborhood?
Yeah, I remember being in a conversation, it was like a post Lessons from Austin conversation where everyone in the room was a developer or from a New York State lending agency, and myself and Jamel were the only creatives in the room, right? A room of like 20 people. And I'm just like, this is the problem. Like this is literally the problem. And being in a space like that and saying, hey, yes, all of these things, definitely, we need attention and we need, the belief that something can work here. But also, which was like, we just presented what we were doing, right? We were like, all right, what happens? Or I think I asked the woman, like, what did Austin do to like actually make it possible for the creatives to like take advantage of the opportunities that are coming because of their work, right? And she was like, well, nothing. And that's how displacement happened.
Yeah.
And that's how like all these people, you know, these black and brown people that live in these pockets and neighborhoods that end up getting gentrified, they, you know, they had nothing, you know? And so, you know, being able to like explain to her like, yeah, no, that's literally what we're doing. We're just teaching artists how to be able to like function as a business, as well as you've got your creative brain. Like in order to like actually survive off of like the thing that you love, it's like you also have to take care of the administrative things. And here are some of the administrative things that like we've gone through that you should know. And that's literally what our co-working space is about, right? It's like figuring out a way to provide an opportunity to, one, for us to teach, and for people to like actively pursue becoming like their own person, being, you know, their own entity really. Because that's the only thing that's gonna like keep, you know, at least, you know, I'm not going to say it's going to cure gentrification, but I think it's going to be able to fight it in some way if we find an opportunity to like build a good enough relationship with the people that live in the communities that are likely to get gentrified, and, you know, the creatives that tend to live in these communities too, right? So like our co-working space being situated, like even I think like one of our strategic like things about like picking a space was like, how do you operate on the edge of a community that is likely to be gentrified while also being connected to like the downtown bustling community, right? Trying to play the middle so that way we can, you know, get the things we need from all of this attention and, you know, stuff like that. But then also go, hey, folks over here, these are the things that are happening. Here's some things that you can do to be able to access these things. Just literally just trying to be a bridge between everything is what our intent and purpose with our co-working space is. And then, you know, we'll also have, you know, media equipment and, you know, just general tools and resources around just to like help people like build a foundation. That's like one of the hugest things I think for us, you know, has always been like the building of the foundation, right? That's literally what we're coming out of basically right now, right? The last 2 years, and the reason why I haven't personally been able to create like, you know, any great, you know, art for myself or like anything like that is solely because like 2017 hit and I was just like, yeah, I can do video, and I loved creating video, but also there's something bigger happening here that like no one else is gonna like work on. So I might as well work on creating this foundation of, you know, support for people, because that's literally what the people have been doing for me, you know, and trying to figure out what the hell I'm gonna do in my life over the last like, you know, 10 years out of college. So
well, you know, we just launched this musician survey to sort of get a sense of the gig economy for musicians locally, and the biggest response we've gotten so far has been, how do I mark down zero money for gigs? And folks saying, you know, I don't get paid. This is, you know, yes, I consider myself a professional musician, but gigging is not the way I make money. And it's not that I didn't expect to see that.
Yeah.
But it is sort of, you realize, you know, when you talk about the creative economy, you do have this whole class of folk who is the engine. They are the engine, and they're not profiting from it.
Right. It's so weird that like the creatives and the creative economy is what most people look for when like deciding if I want to live in a city. It's like, what can I do there, right? Yep. We create these experiences that could give people's lives meaning, and somehow the world's like works in a way that like we're one of the most undervalued pieces of, you know, this economic system, and it's like mind blowing to me, right? Because like the intrinsic value of being able to like go outside with your family and walk them down to a park and see a beautiful sculpture, or go see, you know, a movie, or go to a local concert, or go to a really great restaurant is like everything that people like really live for. You know, no one's really out here trying to work their 9 to 5 because that is the purpose of their life. You know, the purpose of their life is not to work their 9 to 5.
You're making me sad now.
Please don't feel sad. You're doing something really awesome right now. So,
oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you have to give folks the respect that they deserve for how they impact your life, right? Just like it seems like the most like sensical thing to me, but you know, we live in illogical times.
Well, you know, and there are communities that have figured out a little bit, at least better of a way to provide for creatives. And it's splintered here, you know, and I think one of the special things that you guys are doing, obviously you have your headquarters, but this sort of movement and connections you've made transcend the boundaries of cities locally. And we used to see a lot of, I mean, we still do parochialism and folks who aren't going to go across the river to see a show or aren't going to support, there's this large network that's growing and people who are willing to try more because of what, that support system in general. Yeah. So how should folks get involved? How should they reach out to Collective Effort? I know there's plenty of stuff online.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, our social media, which is at Collective, FFORT, it's only one E, shared E, the ideology of sharing. You can find us there. We're going to be putting out a new web. We have like a splash page website kind of thing up right now. In like 3-ish weeks when the co-working space is like done, we're gonna open the website. It's collectiveeffort.co. You could find us there. But otherwise, we've got one big media project that we're working on that I would love for any and everyone. I would love for any and everyone to hit me up right now. It's called Let's Talk About Life, and it is like the cross-county, art-ish kind of thing that we're doing right now, where we're covering the social determinants of health, right? And so, like, as I talk about creating an environment where creatives actually can thrive in, you really have to talk about housing and workforce development and healthcare and food access, right? Which are exactly tied to gentrification and building support systems for people of color and that live in low-income neighborhoods. And so what we're doing is we're attacking or approaching each of these big issues by means of just like a web series where we're going and engaging with organizations across Troy, Albany, and Schenectady that are engaged in housing right now, which is our focus. And engaging with these organizations that are building either the capacity to be able to support low-income neighborhoods, but even at the macro scale, just people that are in the housing conversation. So it's developers, it's nonprofits, that kind of thing. While also we're going into communities and hey, what is your experience living here, right? What is that like for you? And basically we're trying to again bridge the gap between here are these people who are getting paid to work for you, and they have these resources, and then being able to communicate to the communities that they're supposed to be serving, hey, these things are here for you. You probably didn't know about them, which is generally one of the bigger issues, right? Outside of systemic racism and all these kinds of things that drive people's narratives and minds and things like that. It's the other huge issue is that people just don't know how to communicate with one another. Well, and so I can't cure racism, but I definitely could probably try to cure your communication issues.
As a father, I've suddenly been tuned in a lot more to what the library can offer, or what the programs go way beyond anything I really would have imagined. And they're things that can build fabric of families and sort of give people some of the needs that meet the needs. That, the things that the Albany libraries provide are just beyond my wildest dreams, and we've started to take advantage, but also wonder why aren't there more people here? This is amazing.
Yeah.
The other thing is with talking about food deserts, and food availability. I mean, we were just talking to Kristen Holler from the Barn, and they're doing this new program that'll have chefs come in and to some of the food deserts in the area and make meals, healthy meals, hopefully, with the ingredients available at local stores.
Yeah, we're filming that.
Yeah, cool, very cool. I thought you were involved. Yeah. And I'm still really shocked in some ways that this issue that I used to talk about is being a big problem in the Bronx is still an issue here, given all the many grocery stores that pop up on one road, from Albany to Schenectady, but they're not, they don't get to the people that need it. And it seems like such a simple thing, especially given that the legislature is right there, and the legislature and the governor sit in a neighborhood that is affected by that sort of thing. And it's also something that seems taboo to discuss in a lot of ways locally. You get a lot of people locally who have influence who will say that's not a real, that's not a real thing.
Yeah, because it's a real problem, and once you find local power, for the very limited amounts of power there are for people in small cities and things like that, they lock onto it. Yes. And any like dealing with, issues like that, because they're unfamiliar with it and they have no tools for it, like it threatens their power, right? And that's why no one wants to really address that thing. I mean, I'm going to address it, and I'm sure I'm going to make a lot of enemies doing it, but at the same time, I'm probably going to make a lot of friends too. And that's really what's really is going to change everything, right? I'm not really afraid of like the big fights that I'm going to eventually get into, but what I am really, fueled by is the attempt at trying to create a base of power, or just not even, if not power, at least necessity, right, for people to be able to like have access to like living, right? We're talking about people's lives, right? Like people's genuine lives, and having to like fight for someone else's right to eat and live in a healthy condition, to be able to raise their families, to be able to like try anything outside of their normal, is just like super important for us to like actually move forward as just like a species, right? And so there has to be examples, and I'm just trying to like create a way, not the way, the answer. I'm just trying to create something that gets us closer to be able to figure out like the human, issue.
Well, if you walk away having changed something, even that big, I think you can feel good about it.
I hope so. I'm my worst critic, so like, I don't know. I've got like these huge, like, if I don't do this, I'm just going to be the saddest all my life. But
I know the feeling. So is there a date for the co-working space yet, or is this?
So we're opening in almost exactly a month.
Okay.
And when we do that, we're going to be doing our beta mode, which we're going to invite 50 folks in. And we're going to test the hell out of all the things that we've got going on, which you should tune into our social media and website stuff to check out.
Very cool.
I don't want to like give all of it away yet.
Understood.
But yeah, we're going to be doing some really awesome stuff. And again, it's really just to give people a chance, That's literally all this is about. Just giving folks a chance while also creating the opportunity for us to like make some really dope stuff. Like I really want to make a film, in the next 2 years. Like I really want to make a film. I just helped like my friend produce a film from LA, and I was just like, wow, it's that easy? In my head, like I had like this like huge complex, like, all right, I'm gonna need this huge budget and da-da-da-da. I actually, between helping my friend do that, and I remember maybe 2 years ago at the Foundry over in Cohoes, someone was like making a film. Well, he showed his film there, and he was saying like how he didn't go to film school. He had like $2,000 budget or something like that, and just like knocked it out. And it was a really solid film. And I was just like, man. So like, yeah, just creating capacity for like everyone to be able to like pursue things like that, while also creating like a good enough foundation for my team, to create some really dope stuff. I want to like have something on Netflix soon,
Yeah. So there is the market.
Yeah, there's their market.
There's a lot more opportunity to get.
Yeah, I'm trying to get one of these Facebook Watch channels, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. The next couple of years are gonna be really, really fun.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'd love to have maybe a few folks from Collective Effort on.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Around the opening, and maybe talk about how things are going, or maybe we can come visit or something. But,
absolutely, definitely come hang out, man. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much for the time, and everyone check out the website and especially the Instagram, because you'll get a sense of how the space is coming together. I've been following it for a while, so it's pretty neat to see.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it.